What's going on, Islander fans? Welcome to another episode of Isles Talk. I'm your host, Paul Kreischer. Gary was dealing with some health issues. We hope for a speedy recovery for him. And Joe he says he's sick, but he's probably relaxing on the couch right now watching the show because he didn't want to do it with me. That's just who Joe is. But thank God I have a good friend of mine, Rob Taub, to join us tonight. Rob is from NHL.com. We've been on Facebook friends for years. We haven't yet gotten together. We will at some point as soon as I get my butt back to Long Island. But Rob, I want to thank you so much for joining me tonight and filling in and helping out other Islander fans after last night.
I appreciate you having me, Paul. I've been looking forward to this for a while, and yeah, that was a tough one last night. I was in the building, and wasn't a fun experience. I mean, great, like Wells Fargo is a great facility, but I went down there to see them win, and of course they put up probably their most pathetic performance of the year outside of the New Jersey game.
Yeah, no, that was definitely a tough one to watch. So, for my younger Islander fans who may not know who you are, what do you do for NHL.com?
So basically, with the NHL is I'm a behind the scenes producer, and I'm helping to facilitate and get everything ready before it goes out on the website on game nights, whether that could be goals being scored, so getting videos ready before they are put up on the site. I do the recaps for games, highlights for games. Last year, before my schedule was mostly night schedule, this year I was doing producing a lot of the written stories and all the stuff that goes with making sure everything is set and accurate before it goes out on the league's mobile platform, web platforms, social platform. So I'm basically just really a behind the scenes guy, but I'm also getting paid to watch the sport of hockey, and so I really can't complain. So that's like when people ask me like what I do, I'm like I basically get paid to watch the game and just get stuff ready so like that people will see on their phones, on their computers, like this and that.
So do you cover the Islanders or do you cover every team?
No, well, I don't cover teams per se. I am assigned games from that night.
Assigned games.
So
Okay.
yeah, I'm assigned games. So it's not just Islander games. The Islander content I still do on my own. I just do it for the fun of it. I was a blogger. I mean, I'm sure some of your
Have
audience
at it.
would know me.
I've been
Yeah.
reading your work for years. Tell everyone. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I started out with Isles blog, which is now it's now Isles Fix, and I was just making content, making written content for a long time. I was interning with Stan Fischler, and I would go cover games in the metro area, whether it was Islanders, Devils, Rangers, and I'm still helping him out with some of the stuff he does for Islanders.com, all his pieces, his historic stuff. But no, like I went from basically just blogging to helping sort of put a team together of writers for Isles blog before we made the transition over. And I was kind of like a co-editor in chief type of thing. So I've done a little bit of everything when it comes to like the content like portion of what people are looking for social wise. And also, if you still follow, like if you do follow me on Twitter, you see I post videos, I post gifs because it's still fun. It's still fun to interact with people. A lot of people,
Absolutely.
I get a lot of requests sometimes during the game, like, oh, can you go back and get so and so or get a play, and I'm like, yeah, just get that's nice to have that to be afforded that opportunity, and it's just fun. Like for me, it's just fun to still like have just to be on Twitter and see all like I mean, not say the hate, but like just all like the
The
back and forth
drama.
that this fan base and the team brings.
Yeah, it's drama. You and I have been on that too long to know it's not drama at this point.
Oh
So,
yeah.
we can briefly go over the Philadelphia game.
Hmm.
Obviously, you were there. You've got the better experience. I'm honestly not surprised that they lost, obviously, with the effort and whatnot. But give me your thoughts on the game last night.
I think really after Dobson scored and then Sanheim got that quick shorthanded goal. It seemed like they were on their heels for most of the night. It just seemed like they never recovered. I mean, the Hayes goal, I can't blame Sorokin for that. That was I think really that was just a broken play.
He
But to
does that all
me,
the time.
yeah,
Hayes.
yeah.
Hayes does that to us all the time.
Yeah, he's an Islander killer. I mean,
Yeah,
watching him the way he has for years now, that's just his MO. But I don't know. I thought that, there were spurts during the game where they looked like they were coming on, especially in the third, like in the third period when they like really should have turned it on to tie the game, which I thought they were going to. The way they were getting chances, I mean, Anthony Mobilier's chances, you got to bury one of those. Like I
yeah,
feel like maybe they like that took the wind out of their sails. But to me, they just got outworked last night. They look like a team, and credit to Philadelphia. And the Flyers played them hard on Saturday. It was actually a competitive game. I thought the Islanders were a step behind on Saturday, and then they turned it on when they needed to. But watching that, like being there last night, the Islanders just were outworked. They were not good along the boards. I mean, I'm sure we'll get to it later. Well, no, Simon Holmstrom. I was watching him specifically last night because I thought he had
hmm
a game, but watching him along the boards, he did not win a board battle, and I was like, this kid's got to win at least one board battle tonight because it not only would have helped him in the long run, but it seemed like the Islanders were like just in and out of the offensive zone most of the night. I mean, they only had, I believe it was like 15 or 16 shots after the second. Like after the second, they were not doing a lot of things offensively to really press Carter Hart. And look, Carter Hart was great last night.
yeah,
But I thought that they really didn't, they weren't as aggressive as they should have been. And to me, something I also noticed was Matthew Barzell was doing the stopping, starting, coming in over the blue, and then stopping and then turning the puck over. And he hasn't been doing that a lot this year. But I noticed it was creeping in his game last night, and I was like, this is not good. This was not like it was a sign that things were just not going to go their way last night.
yeah. So, um, moving on to that, we have the Predators next, and there was something going on very interesting tonight in Bridgeport. And Andrew Gross also tweeted this out, as well as Michael Fornabino the Connecticut, from Connecticut. Uh, Josh Bailey, Cal Clutterbuck, and I believe Palmieri may actually
Mhm.
be out, uh, possibly for Friday. And for some strange reason, Atu Ratu is not in Bridgeport lineup tonight. Give me your thoughts. I'm not going to lie to you. If Ratu comes up, he's getting showcased, and I'll explain later. But give me your thoughts on Ratu coming up.
Well, I think if they are going to bring him up, it's because Bailey is not going to play again. I don't think it's a Cal Clutterbuck situation because I think that Ross Johnson he'll have that position to lift. And it's weird because Clutterbuck, I don't know what happened last night. It just out of nowhere, it didn't appear on the
Yeah,
bench, never came back. And that seems to happen from time to time.
sure.
But yeah, but with Ratu, I mean, I saw it on Twitter tonight that he was healthy scratched, which is a little weird because it's the first game all season that he's being healthy scratched. So that gives you a little bit of an inkling that okay, maybe they are going to call him up. But hey, if they're going to showcase him, God, like then more to the merrier. I mean, one of the things that this year, and I think a lot of fans are clamoring for, I'm not going to say myself included, was they wanted to see the younger guys like get their shot. Like I mean, who knows? We could see William Dufour up here. We could see Ruslan Isakov up here soon. Who knows? We could see Sam Bolduc if knock on wood, like that might not have to happen because the way I'm looking at the Bridgeport Islanders right now is they're a good hockey team. Like they seem like they're a very good team, and that's something that the Islanders really haven't had in a long time. Is they have a system now and a AHL team that's actually looking very good, and they have players that a lot of people say, "Oh, like they're these picks and they're not going to amount to anything." They're actually starting to turn some heads, and it's great to see. And Ratu is that one of those guys. He had, I think he had a good showing in training camp, and
Yes, he did.
I didn't think he was gonna make the team. But you're looking the way he's playing right now in Bridgeport, and as I said, I mentioned the other names before. And it's like, all right, let this kid have his shot. Let's see what he's got. It's nice that Simon Holmstrom, as I mentioned him before,
Absolutely.
he's getting his shot too. I think he's been solid so far. I think the guy who I went with last night, my friend who I went, he said he's got to learn how to play within his body. Like he's a big body. I don't think he knows how to use it yet. He's got to be more. He could be more physical. Like you're allowed to be more physical in this league. It's not just skill like it is in the AHL. So I think it's good to see him up. If we see Ratu up, that's good. I'm not going to speculate. I do think Kyle Palmieri has a concussion. I really do. I've watched that replay a bunch of times with
Yep.
Giordano from last week, and you could tell the way his head contacted Giordano's knee. And yeah, it's good that he finished the game, but obviously there's some concern that he's dealing with like a little bit of the extra stuff that comes with a concussion. And with Bailey, I think they missed him last night. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. I think they really did because he's a calming presence in the defensive zone.
Yes.
And he's the kind of guy, you look at the plays he made on Saturday, people won't give him credit for it, but he was the reason that they tied the game. And he was one of
Yep.
the reasons that they took the lead in the game on Parise's second goal. So I think without though, like just to get back to Ratu, if he's in that, like if he's in place for one of those guys, okay, great. Let's showcase him. Let's see what he's got. Obviously, he's a high pick. I mean, there was a lot of smoke around him when he was first drafted because of how far
Hmm.
he fell how far he fell. But if he's another guy who can start contributing, and I'm not saying he has to score like like 4 or 5, 6 goals off the bat, but just play your game, show that you're defensively structured because I think that's what Lambert and the coaching staff wants. And I think it's a great opportunity for him. I mean, we'll see. We have until Friday, which is like a
Exactly.
long time. Yeah, 2 days in the NHL is a long time for guys to say, "Oh, I'm feeling better," or "I don't feel the pain that I was feeling." So I think it's a wait and see situation with Ratu, but interesting that he is actually scratched tonight.
Yeah, and it's a Wednesday game. The AHL don't start doing Wednesday games until like the second half of the season anyway. The other concern, well, I guess it's more of a question mark for me is that Ratu has never played wing, minimum to no experience on wing whatsoever. So when I see players on the wing like Bailey, Clutterbuck, Palmieri get injured, I'm waiting for Soshnikov to come back. Or if we're going to do a showcase, Ruslan Ishkakov probably would have been the better choice on wing because he has played center and wing and he has the speed and the defense. I would probably go, he's got more of a defensive fortitude than Ratu does early on right now because Ratu is still getting used to this. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I think with Ishikov, and he scored again tonight. I
Yes.
think if you're gonna bring someone like him up, you put him on the fourth line because if you need that speed element, you put him with Casey Zizekas, who's good in all three phases, and he's still got legs. And then you have Matt Martin, who's the more physical presence. I think if you're gonna, of course, you want to showcase these guys in the top six, but putting them on the fourth line isn't that bad of a like. It's not a bad proposition because
No.
yeah, let them get their legs under them and there's a guy who maybe the other team wasn't game planning for, a guy like Isakov or Ratu or whatever. I'm not saying you have to play Ratu on the fourth line. I think he does
Right.
deserve to be top six. And yeah, he hasn't played wing, but sometimes guys have to adjust. I mean, watching, I think it was last night. I think they were double shifting Barzell, the first line and the fourth line, late in the game, and he was on the wing. He wasn't playing center. It was Sadikas taking the faceoffs.
Right.
So it's just a prime example that you're a young guy. If you get put on the floor, if you're not getting top six to start, but if you can contribute and if you're defensively sound and you're playing on the fourth line, nothing wrong. There's really nothing wrong with that. And if it means Ratu has to be the wing, then he has to be the wing. Teams have to adjust. Players get hurt.
Plays
It's
have to
just
adjust.
a
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a part of life in the NHL and just life in hockey itself.
Yeah. And this is not going to be, for those of you who remember, this is not going to be a Nino Niederreiter, where he's going to be stuck with Brian
You
Ralston
don't
all
need a
season
rider.
long. Exactly. This is just, a cup of coffee for these kids to get their legs under to see what they need to learn if they are getting sent back to Bridgeport at some point on what they have to work on. This is the realization when you're finally in the NHL. So I'm looking
You
forward
mentioned,
to seeing.
I was gonna say no. You mentioned Nina Niederreiter. All I could think of was him with Jay Pandolfo and Marty
Yeah,
Reeser. Oh,
yeah,
that brings back
for the
memories.
entire season though.
Yeah, the one time they were effective, I remember the one goal he scored at Chicago where we're like, all right, this guy's finally gonna be something, and it was his only goal of the season. And I was like, really? I
Yep.
mean, unbelievable.
Yeah, so Islander fans, don't worry about it. This is not going to be one of those situations at all. So I wanted to move on now because again, Friday's a long time from here. Uh, Rob, just to fill you in real quick, we've been talking about the Islanders before the season. They kind of remind us, and you had briefly touched on this before. They kind of remind us of the 2002 Islanders, where they had a really good season,
Mhm.
but it was that Trent Hunter effect where he came in out of nowhere in the playoffs and he had a big impact taking Toronto to 7 games. That's what we were looking at in terms of the kids, where it be Ishkakov, Ratu, Samuel Bolduc. If there's enough seasoning and enough, and if they're marinated enough in during the regular season that they can come in and
Mhm.
contribute. But for us also, this, and you also covered the Devils, so we're going to parlay right into
Yep.
this one as well. This Islander team for us really reminds us of 2000, the 2000 Devils. This has been a team that
Interesting.
has already a proven track record in the playoffs. They've been there, done that. And what they're really missing right now is that sexy forward and maybe another defenseman to
Mhm.
get them over the hump. Gary, Joe, and I, we all had them in the playoffs this year. And it was, you take out the last, games 10 through 20 of last season, where they basically went 0-9 with all the AHL players. You make that
Mhm.
up, you're looking at a solid playoff spot. And lo and behold,
Mhm.
folks, that's where they are at this point. So I was getting questions as to certain players coming to the Islanders, and we'll just call them sexy players at the moment. You get that sexy name to possibly relieve some of the pressure off Barzell, maybe give Dobson a little more option, Ryan Pullock from that sexy, not even a sexy defenseman, but everyone knows his name. So,
Mhm.
you're going to have to give him a little more, attention. And they all want to know what the cost is going to be. So, this is how I was going to do this now. And this is why I'm doing the standings for the fans. Um, as you know, we do everything by the percentages. We don't do straight
Mhm.
points. It's always percentages. I've been doing that now for a decade. And give me your thoughts on any of these teams that we talk about. The Bruins and the Devils, they're on pace for 142 and 135. I'm waiting for the carpet to come underneath them, slip a little bit. I want to see a little adversity coming from them. But real quick, give me your thoughts on the Devils, real quick. You love their season so far?
I can't say that I love their season. I think that they finally have put it together in the sense that they have quality goaltending.
Yep.
They have the guys who have they were waiting to finally bust loose the past couple of years have all started to really come into their own, and they've now have a defense. They've got guys on defense. They've got youth on defense. They've got experience on defense. And you mentioned the carpet falling out from underneath them. If they can keep getting quality goaltending, and this is one of the things I talked about with even guys from Devils podcast, who I'm good friends with. I said they are only going to go anywhere this. The only way they're going to go anywhere this year is if they get good goaltending, and unbelievably to think that Mackenzie Blackwood would get hurt again because I said he's their X factor.
Yep.
Now they've got two guys in Vitek Vanacek and I guess it's Akira Smeed, where I
Hmm.
don't really know that much about. But Vanacek has taken the ball and run with it, not like he did in Washington last year. And the point I'll make with just to not to get up, but with Washington, they are
Hmm.
old. They got
Yes.
old really, really quickly. We could go back and say like the Islanders were not as good as them last year. The Islanders were right on par with them
They
because the
were.
way Washington, yeah, outside of Ovechkin and the mainstays, that team really has nothing. They really don't, and it showed last year, and it's showing this year.
Yep.
I've always for the past couple of years said that it was going to be Pittsburgh and Washington that was finally going to fall off the cliff. Washington, I think, is finally starting to get there. I think their window is officially. I think it's over. I think the team, like there are teams now in the East that have more talent than them. Not saying with Ovechkin, Backstrom, Carlson, and Oshie withstanding, but there are teams that younger. The teams are getting younger, and they're going to be faster than them. Because I've seen Washington a lot this year, and they just don't look right. They really don't look right. Even with games that they've won, they seem like it's always a struggle. And just going back to the Devils, I think, as I was saying, that Vitek Vanacek, the way he's playing incredible. And incredible goaltending can take you anywhere in this league. I'll just go just to throw a throwback. Keith Kincaid, second half of the
Yeah.
season, 2017-18. He went on this roll, and the Devils found a spot. They found their legs. Taylor Hall was a monster that year. I
Yep.
covered that team,
Yep.
and from about, I'd say, January on, they were just a freight train that no one was stopping. So, and I'm not comparing the team. I'm not comparing the 2 years, but I think with the Devils, they're finally seeing the fruits of their labor. I said Jack Hughes. I wanted to see Jack Hughes hit 100 points this year. I don't know if he's going to get there, but the way
He
he's
will at
playing like a
some point.
superstar, he is playing like a superstar right now. And the most underrated player in the league, yes, for Brad, best player in the NHL. Shout out to Brad Pack. He's ridiculous. He's that good. He's so good. If they need to re-sign him, well, they needed to re-sign him yesterday, but there's another guy that just flying under the radar. Not much anymore. He's one of the best players in the league, and they're seeing the results from it. And they're getting contributions from everyone. And as much they had the Lindy Ruff chance in the beginning.
I know.
You can't base a season off 2 games. Were they 2 bad games? Sure. But go back to the Islanders' first couple games of the season. They weren't that great, but they were playing, they were playing enough. They were playing well enough to win. Not saying that I believe the Devils were in the first couple games from what I saw, but they started to finally piece it together. And now are they a playoff team? They should be with the way they're playing. But I don't know. I'm still waiting, just like you. Could the carpet fall out from underneath them? Absolutely. But I think the teams right now, they just look faster than a lot of teams. They look more hungrier than a lot of teams. That fan base has been waiting a long time for something to cheer about. And they've been waiting for their guys to finally come into form, and they are. So in regards to the Devils, I think it's still wait and see. I think they're a very dangerous team right now. I think they could beat anybody. They could beat anybody in this league, and they can play with anybody in this league. For the Bruins, because I know you mentioned the Bruins.
Yeah.
I will go on. I will say I thought with all the injuries that they were going to be dealing with, the Marchand, McAvoy, whoever else was hurt, I thought it was going to ruin them this year.
I thought
they were going to. Yeah, I thought they were going to be
dirty.
Very bad. Yeah, I thought they were going to be a very bad team. I've never really been sold on Linus Ullmark. I mean, Jeremy Swayman, he's starting to grow on me. Linus Ullmark, though, I'm like, I just watched him in Buffalo when he was with the Sabres, and he wasn't that good. But now he's rounded into form, and they're just a good team. They're coached well. Like I get Jim Montgomery right now. He would probably be my coach of the year candidate next to Lindy Ruff for now. But they're a veteran team. They've got their weapons. They've got the Marchands, the Pasternaks. They got David Krejci back. It's like the band is back together. My one concern with them is if they get the wrong matchup in the playoffs, because I do think they should be a playoff team. They are beatable. Watch it again. Carolina beat Carolina. I thought was a version of them last year that we saw long time ago when the Bruins were, when they had Chara and they had, and all
they
those
were 2010.
Guys. Yeah. Basically that's the comparison. That's what I saw from Carolina last year. But even just to throw it back to the Islanders series, the Islanders wore them down. They wore them down. They were physical. They were opportunistic. And Rask might have been playing hurt. Who knows? Like, that's a story for another day. But to me, I feel like the Bruins, they could be had in the playoffs if they get the wrong matchup. And even just looking at the Atlantic Division itself, I think a team like Detroit can knock them off. I mean, if they get good goaltending, Detroit can knock the Bruins off. I thought that there were a few. I think Buffalo could knock them off. I think Buffalo could make the playoffs this year. I'm not saying they will. I think they were my dark horse because they're a very good team. They're just waiting on goaltender. They're waiting on Devin Levi, who's supposedly their best goaltender, not playing in the NHL right now. That's their guy, and they're waiting. So I'm not surprised with the steps they've taken this year, and they've taken a few steps back with the losing streak, but now they're finding their way again. But I do think the Bruins can be had in the playoffs, depending on the matchup. I don't think the carpet's going to fall out from underneath them because the start they've had, they should make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to fall off. I think in the playoffs is where things will get interesting for them.
I think Tampa's in the same boat we are. I think they're just pacing themselves for the playoffs. They're doing awfully well right now. I don't think they're going to be
See,
repeating as Eastern Conference champions, though.
see, my thing with Tampa, and you're right, they might be just kind of coasting to the play like they've done for the past couple of years.
Yep.
But that's a lot of wear and tear. It's a
Yes, there
lot of
is.
wear and tear to
Yes, there
go
is.
to 4 straight Stanley Cups. The last team to do it was the Islanders, and there's a reason
Hmm.
why, because they kept most of it together, and they got the guys that they had. I mean, they were legends.
Yes.
Just to throw that out there. But I think, of course, it was a different time back then. My
Of
thing
course.
with Tampa is I think Toronto should have beat them last year in the playoffs. I do. I think Vasilevsky still, for me, as much as it will, as much as we'll over Shesterkin, over Igor, as much as we will fall over for Igor Shesterkin and for Ilya Sorokin, Andre Vasilevsky is still the best goaltender in this league. Until
Agreed.
someone knocks him off that perch, it's him. For me, though,
Agreed.
they lost Ryan McDonough, which I think might be a huge loss.
Right.
It might come back to hurt them.
Yep.
And I do think the apple's going to fall out from under the tree sooner or later. Some team is going to knock them off, whether it's a team that no one's thinking about, which could be Buffalo, could be Detroit, could be. I mean, Boston seems like the team that would be the team to knock them off.
Right.
But I don't see I don't put them in the same boat as the Islanders, because with Tampa, they're built completely different than the Islanders are. They've got stars all over the ice, from Hedman to Kucherov, Stamkos, Anthony Cirelli is still good. You've got like Braden Point. I
Hmm.
hate that guy, but
I know.
he's so
Braden
damn
Point.
good.
Braden
So
Point is our Bob Nystrom of this generation.
you think
He
so?
shows up. He shows up in the
It's an
playoffs.
interesting comparison.
He Braden Point will get you any big goal in the playoffs, and that's exactly what
Yeah,
Nystrom did. And it's
yeah,
annoying because we don't talk about Braden Point during the season, but
one of the
until the
best players in the
playoffs
league.
kick in, yeah, yeah. So
But
no, I go ahead.
no, I think with Tampa, I think this could be the year that they finally get knocked off. It'll be interesting to see. Yes, they're coasting right now, and that's okay, because
That's
they're
okay.
probably going to make the play. They can make the playoffs. They can turn it. They'll turn it on when they want to, and usually when they turn it on, it's usually late March, like mid March, late March, early April, and they know that what matters most is coming up, and that's to get back to the Stanley Cup final, to get back to the
Right.
Stanley Cup
Stanley Cup
final.
Finals. Absolutely.
And I think I was on a podcast in the summer. I said, I wouldn't be surprised if they made it back. I really wouldn't. They're still the top dog in the East until someone
Until
beats
someone
them
knocks
at.
them off.
Yeah, I mean, the Islanders came close. We could go on for days about that. I had this
Yes, we
conversation last
could.
night with my buddy. We talked. We went over like a lot, because I hadn't seen him in a while. We went over a lot of the way Tampa, like how they should have beat Tampa, but that's history now.
Sure.
But I think Tampa is still the top dog until someone takes them out. And could it be the Islanders? Sure. A lot of people were saying it was going to be the Rangers. It was going to be the Rangers this year.
Oh, we'll get into them in
Not
a
the way
minute.
it's looking right now to
No.
me. And not I didn't want to get up, but the Rangers remind me. I was saying this to my dad. They remind me this year of the Islanders 2016-17. Watching them in the beginning of the year,
Ooh, good
yeah, they
move.
lost. So the Rangers lost Kopp, Petrano, Strome. The Islanders that summer, they lost to Poso, Nielsen, Matt Martin. I think, and maybe one other guy. I'm not, but
Vanek, wasn't it?
no, Vanek was years before that.
14? Okay,
No,
yeah.
no, no. Yeah, Vanek. They traded Vanek to it was a Montreal. No, yeah, it was to Montreal.
In
They traded Vanek
Montreal.
to Montreal. Yeah, the 2014 trade deadline.
Okay,
But
never
that
mind.
team,
Yep.
watching the Rangers right now, the way they've been struggling reminds me, because they have no toughness. There's no edge to their game. They're soft. They rely on ridiculous goaltending, and you have guys like Chris Kreider and Artemi Panarin and Lafreniere and Kako who are just underperforming. And I think you have to have those guys going. And watching them right now with the way they're playing, yeah, they're up 2-0, but it's Ottawa. And Ottawa's not an easy opponent, but they're also not the greatest team. They're not the most well-rounded team.
Right.
The Rangers, they have no edge to their game.
Nope.
And I just it solely reminds me, because the Islanders, right before they fired Capuano, that first couple months was horrific with the way they were playing. They were getting blown out a lot. They definitely, you could tell they missed Matt. They missed Martin. They missed his physicality. They missed his leadership. They missed Oposo. They missed Franz. Like you could just see they were missing those guys. And the reason I'm comparing them is Artemi Panarin had such great chemistry
with Ryan
Ryan
Strome.
Strome,
Yep.
and now it's like, oh, now it's 2-1. Okay, but those guys had
Good.
chemistry. I don't think he's found it yet with Vincent Trocheck or whoever's been playing.
No.
And it also it falls on the kids. Alexis Lafreniere and Kako have 18 points. 18 points combined in 22 games. And a lot of people are saying, oh, like, they're still young. No, this is year 3, year 4. Get it together. Like we like, as I don't like those guys watching the Islanders, we complain about guys like Oliver Wahlstrom, and we were complaining about Noah Dobson. These guys are showing it though. And I know Wahlstrom, he's still a bit of he's still a project in a sense.
He is a project.
Yeah, he's a project, but he's showing more in this league right now than Lafreniere and Kako have done, and they've been around almost as long as him.
Yeah.
There's your problem. I mean, that's my synopsis of the Rangers right now. And if they lose this game, I wouldn't be surprised.
No. I am going to bring in now. I think we have a new dark horse in the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yep.
With Chris Letang, unfortunately suffered his second stroke and is out indefinitely. Rob, this could be a 93 Isles moment where they lost Turgeon and all of a sudden they rally behind. The Penguins could rally around themselves and really make a statement, and that's really going to put a tough spot on the Rangers, because if the Pens start winning for Letang, like they've got motive now. They really have something to play for now. The Panthers, the Rangers, they're in trouble for a playoff spot, especially if Detroit keeps up what they're doing. But the Pens, they've got something to play for now.
Yeah, it's horrible to hear what happened. I'll tell you, I guess this is the second time too. I guess he had one in 2014. I didn't even know about it, but until I read about it this morning. The Penguins, I don't. Of course, I think this is their last shot to finally to get a Stanley Cup, to win that next Stanley Cup. And yeah, could they rally around the Letang situation? Absolutely. For me though, they're another team, just like the Bruins, just like I was mentioning before about the Bruins. If they get the wrong matchup in the playoffs, and they should be a playoff team, they're a very good team. But if they get the wrong matchup, and I'm sorry, I am taking any goaltender over Tristan Jarry and Casey DeSmith, based on just based on experience alone of watching what has happened to the Penguins, not just from what the Islanders did, but what the Rangers did to them last year. But yeah, they could rally around Letang, but I still think there's something with that team that just doesn't fit. Something just doesn't seem right, and it hasn't seemed right for a while. And I don't think it's Evgeny Malkin still being there. I feel like their defense it's suspect. Yeah, it's a suspect defense. Do they have? Of course, they have Chris Letang, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. But behind him, Brian Dumoulin, and they have guys and they had what's his name, Pedersen. And I can't name them all right now. They don't scare, they wouldn't scare me in the playoffs. They really wouldn't scare me in a playoff series.
No.
I mean, in the regular season, it's totally different. They are a phenomenal regular season team. They always seem to find a way to either win the division or have a high seed in the playoffs, and that's great. That goes to show you that guys like Sidney Crosby and Malkin and Brian Rust and those guys, they are still one of the best. They're still at the top of their game, but it's all for me. It's the playoffs. It all comes down to them in the playoffs, and there's something with them now. They just don't seem to have it when it comes to the playoffs. And sure, they blew a 3-1 lead to the Rangers. Yep. A lot of those games, they should have buried them in Game 5 at the Garden until Crosby got hurt. The series totally changed after that. But you could see that there was something there's still something missing with them. Do I think they can win a Stanley Cup? Maybe. But I think if they ran into, let's say you were mentioning before, if they ran into Florida, Tampa, Boston, I think they're very beatable. I don't know. Along with Washington, they were my other team that I thought was going to finally fall off after a while. Like they were finally going to
Yeah,
fall off these
finally.
past couple
Finally
years.
is the key word.
Well, yeah. Well, I think because Crosby is still running that, he's running that ship. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I mean,
Right.
maybe one of these days, maybe in a couple of years, because he's getting up there in age. Malkin's getting up there in age. All those guys who is their legit core are really starting to get in their late 30s, possibly close to 40. But I don't know. The Penguins, we'll see what happens with them. To me, they're always a see and wait type of team more than any other team in the Metro and the Eastern Conference. They're always a see and wait because they can have a bad stretch like they had. I think they lost like 5 or 6 in a row, a couple of
Mm-hmm.
weeks ago, and then they turned it on. They turned it on again, and they go into Philadelphia last Friday and whip the Flyers, but then they lose to the Toronto Maple Leafs at home in a close
Right.
game, and they lost a close game last night to Carolina 3-2, and it's like they're just metal. They like to meddle, and then once it's time to turn it on, just let's say just like Tampa does, they turn it on.
They
But they're
turn it
still
on.
wait and see. They're still wait and see team for me this year. It's still early. It's only December. It's only been 2 months into the season. There's a lot of season left for them to really show that they're going to be the same threat that they've always been.
So that's a great coverage of the Eastern Conference. Again, I had said earlier on before the season started, I know a lot of people had Ottawa, but Detroit for me was I had Detroit as that sleeper team. I don't trust Steve Yzerman, and I'd say that as a compliment because he's learned from
He's fantastic.
Devellano. Yeah, he's learned from the best, and he knows how to build a team. We've seen it in Tampa. We're seeing it now. If the Wings, for me, it's the stamina. Can the Wings sustain this all season long? And it
Well,
goes
I
back to
think
goaltending.
well that's amazing. I mean, and they brought in Billy Husso, he's been good. I mean,
Yep.
they still have Nedeljkovic, who's playing tonight, and he's been okay.
Right.
We saw a preview of it last year in the beginning of the season. The Red Wings were a really good team. They were
Yes.
fast. They were
Yep.
moving. They have Moritz Seider, who's going to be a stud. He's already a stud, but he's going to be a major player in this league. And they've got guys like Lucas Raymond and Dylan Lark. They've got a lot of young talent that's really, really good. But as you saw the season more on last year, and this might be the case again this year, maybe they're not ready for prime time because there was a game that the Islanders played against them. I believe it was second half of the season, and the Islanders just kicked their ass. I think
Big
it was a
time.
home game. I was there because early in the season when they went into Detroit, they lost both times. They were close games, but you could see how much faster Detroit was. You could see how much more hungrier Detroit was, just how based on their youth and maybe this comes now getting a guy like Andrew Kopp and bringing in a guy like David Perron, that's going to help. That's playoff experience right there. Those are two forwards that really could help them down the stretch. That know what the mentality is when it comes to games in like playing really playoff games in February, March, into April. So we'll see with them, but I mean, it's all about experience for me with them. They're still a very young team. I don't know if this was going to be their year, just like almost like the same thing like the Sabres. I think they're
Yep.
another year away before they really, really take that huge step forward and they mark their territory not only in the Atlantic Division but in the East. Like, okay, we're here to stay. Like, we've got talent up the wazoo, and they've still got talent. They've got guys in the system that they haven't even seen yet that could help them down the line.
Down the
So
road.
they're
Yep.
another team.
Yep.
And I think I did mention it before. They could steal a playoff spot. I don't know. They
They
could steal
could.
one from Florida. They could steal one from let's say Toronto. But
Sure.
they're also
Ah,
let's see with the second half of the season when it rolls around. I want to see how they handle it. All those younger guys. So it should be fun to watch.
absolutely. So let's get back to a little more Islander centric here for a moment. You talked about Wallstrom for a little bit. We've talked about Dobson. I don't think Dobson gets enough credit yet around the league. Um, um, I don't know. At some point he will. Give me your thoughts though on the sleeper right now, Sebastian Aho. This kid's got 5 points in 15 games for the month of November. That's good for a 30-point pace. Are we seeing a maturing process out of Aho here? And what do you think his impact could be moving down the season?
I think we are seeing a maturing process. I think last year was very tough for not just him, but for everyone, and we don't need to
Mhm.
get into that.
Right.
I think that, you know, the in and out of the lineup, the way things were last year, it's hard to find a consistent balance with your game. What I'm seeing from him now is I'm seeing a lot more poise. I'm seeing a lot more poise. He looks more comfortable. And yeah, to talk about a guy he's a number six, like slash number seven defensive, but he's a quality number six, number seven defenseman. And those are hard to find in the NHL. You don't find those don't grow on trees. I almost see him as they want him to be a Thomas Hickey clone, like a bit like
Yes.
they've got same size, same kind of game. Like Hickey was sneaky good offensively, and we've seen that. Now you mentioned the 5 points in 15 games this month. Like he's really starting to come to his own. To me, the size thing is still like it could still be a factor. He's a small guy. I mean, watching him last night, there was one point in the game last night where he made a turnover and almost led to a goal. And I remember I was watching it like after the second period, he was sitting on the bench watching. I believe it was the same. It was watching on the iPad.
Yep.
And because that's how we know, like he can't make that type of mistake. It didn't cost him a goal, but it was like a point in the game where okay, it could have been 3-1 and things could have been way different. But for me, Aho, I think he's really starting to come to his own. He's also he's not a young guy. He's 25,
Mm-mm.
26 years old. He's
No.
been around for a little bit. I think because he was so low on the totem pole for the past couple of years that it's been hard for him to really find his spot. And I think now this year, because he's getting consistent playing time, he's starting to find his spot. And it seems like him and Matthew Barzell have some chemistry.
On the
It seems
power
like him
play.
on the power. Yeah,
Have you
I don't know
noticed
if
that?
I I've noticed it like in spurts. I think I'm seeing it
Okay.
more 5-on-5. Obviously, it seems like Aho is more of a facilitator, just like the way
Yes.
Barzell is in a
Barzell
sense.
is.
But Aho seems like he wants to shoot. He looks like a guy he's like hungry when he wants to shoot, he'll shoot, which is something that he could teach Matthew Barzell down once in a
Yes.
while.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
I think he's been a solid addition. A lot of people will say, "Oh, like he does this wrong, he does that wrong." Look at the whole body of work. Don't just go by game basis. Look at the whole body of work. That's why like when I tweet stuff like that, like, he's been actually solid so far this year. And people are like, oh, this, that, whatever. Like they'll tweet blah, blah, blah. I'm like, watch
Whole
the
thing.
whole
I know.
package. Yeah. Don't just go game by game. And defensively, I think, yeah, he's starting to find his way. And offensively, you could see he's sneaky. He's a sneaky, like he has some sneaky offensive ability. And I mean, you pair him with a guy like Scott Mayfield, who I don't think gets enough credit for his offensive ability. I mean, I
No.
think he's got 3 or 4 goals this year. Let's look at
I'm gonna go 4.
Mayfield he's got 4 goals this year. He's got 4 goals in 24 games. He only had last year
4?
he had three. That's
3.
he
Yeah.
already beat last year's
Yeah.
pace. So he's
Yeah.
another sneaky guy who can, and he's also you saw the plays he's made in the Colorado game and the other games and him and Barzell obviously have chemistry. They seem to find each other all the time. But
Yes.
you pair Aho with a guy like him, and because I mean Mayfield he's definitely more defensively enhanced. He's more like that's his mo. But you take a duo like that who has they have some offensive talent, like some offensive ability, put them
Right.
together. It's actually turned out to be a pretty good duo. I mean, I'm not big on the whole analytics, everything. I can't understand that shit. Like whatever anyone says,
Right.
but I'm sorry I cursed, but it's like I
No,
have a
that's
hard time
okay.
understanding that. But with those two they made a solid pairing so far. And I think I think the rest of the season we're gonna really see him, like actually start to push his way up the defensive. Not saying he'll be like top four, but where he's sitting right now, he's stable, he's solid he's getting much more better in his own end, and he likes to shoot, which this seems like this
Helps.
defense does a lot this year. Yeah, eight,
Yes.
nine, 19 goals on from the defense. That's remarkable considering what last year was like.
I'm gonna go a step further with you now because the
Mhm.
viewers here who know I did this all last year, and I did it again this year. When any Islander player, whether they score 2 points or it's different players, different defensemen specifically scoring points in the game, if they have 1 point or less, the team wise, if one defenseman has 1 point or less, the entire defense, they're 2-8. So if the Islanders defense have 1 point or less, the Islanders are 2-8. When any
Wow,
Islander defenseman during the game have 2 points or more, they're 13-1. And I'm gonna
that's a
bring you
pretty big stat.
that's a big stat. Now here's another one
Yeah.
for you. This was last year under Barry Trotz. Last year, any Islander defenseman with 1 point or less, they were 9-23-2. Last year, 2 points or more from any defenseman, and that counts. Like, let's say Noah Dobson has 2 points in a game, that counts. So
What if
if the Island
I was gonna say, what if he got a point and another defenseman got a point? Does
still
it have to be
that still
one specific?
counts.
Okay, so it
Nope.
doesn't have to be one specific player. Okay,
No, does not have to be one specific player. If the Islanders defense scored 2 points or more in a game, they went 28, 12, and 8. There's all types of parallels here, and this is why Lane Lambert ends up being a perfect choice for the Islanders because they're not missing a beat when it comes to the defense actually scoring here. And now you have someone like Aho rising to the occasion with Scott Mayfield.
hmm
You get Alexander Romanov scoring a few more points here as soon as he gets acclimated, and you've got something. But this is what I was talking about before. Whether it's January, because we know, GMs like Rutherford and Lamoriello love to make deals before the trade deadline, or maybe at the trade deadline, you bring in that sexy defenseman every once in a while to rack up a couple of more points. You may want to
hmm
go that route, or someone like Samuel Bolduc, who has been groomed long enough, may make that playoff appearance. That's what I'm looking for towards the second half of the season. But again, is it part of the system, or are we lacking in forwards contributing towards the game
I don't
more?
think we're lacking in forwards. I think
Good answer.
really I think the production. I think the yeah. I know your audience will love that. I think the production from the defense, the way you marked it out, I think it all comes back to Lambert wanted this team to be aggressive offensively
Yes.
more than they were and at any time under the Barry Trotz system. And this is nothing against Barry Trotz. He gave them some of their best years in a long time. I
Yes.
think that the defensive system, after a long time, it wears out the players. And I don't know if that was the full sole reason they were as bad as they were last year. I think there was a lot more other outside
Issues.
circumstances. We won't.
Sure.
Yeah, we won't. We know what they
No, no,
are.
no.
We
Yeah.
could. We could. We won't get into them.
We're in this
But
year.
yeah, we're in this year. That's why it's hard. It's still hard not to mention last year as much as possible.
Yep.
But I think the system now is the watching the way their defensemen activate and the way they pinch and just their decision instead of throwing it around instead of like just holding it, and their defensive, they're pushing up, push the play. That's what Lambert wants. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot more production from the defense. I also think you have guys, and we already mentioned Aho and Mayfield, and we don't need to mention Noah Dobson because he's their most prolific offensive defenseman. But there are guys on this defense that have offensive ability. Adam Pelech has offensive ability. It might not be sexy offensive ability, but it's qualified offensive ability.
Yep.
And of course, with Ryan Pulak, he had 3 assists on what was it? No, he had 4 assists on Saturday. Yeah, he had 4 assists. I need to correct myself. That's another guy. They don't need him to shoot the puck all the time like they were like he was like they were wanting him to the past couple of years. He's
Yeah.
another. He's a guy who can offensively produce if in the right position. And I think a lot of guys, they're guys this year, and we can throw Romanov in there because Romanov also he likes to shoot the puck. I've
He
noticed
does.
this watching. He does, like, instead of not only just throwing massive hits, he has some offense. He has a little bit of offensive ability. It just needs to be uncorked. It needs to, like, really. He's got to find it, and he's come close to scoring. But he's another guy. Yeah, the points might not be there, but
He's
the
contributing.
aggressive, the contribution itself from
Yeah.
all their defense, I think it's played a major part in their success so far this year. And the fact that that stat, where if their defense gets two or more points in a game, that's that's important. Like, that's a vital stat. That shows you
Right now,
that
they're
it,
13-1. They're 13-1 when Islanders defensemen score 2 points or more in a game.
that's unbelievable. That's an unbelievable statistic, and it just goes to show that every piece in this lineup is important. No matter how much people want to detract, some guys saying they do absolutely nothing for this lineup. Every piece to this lineup is important and plays
Yeah.
to their success. It's been
Yeah.
like that for a long time. I mean, you can't say it was like that during the Doug Wade, Jack Capuano years. You really can't, because I think they were more. This is as much balance I think they've had in the lineup since Wade's last year behind the bench, because
Agreed.
they were so good offensively that year, but they were horrendous defensively. Now
Yes.
they've got a mix of both. And people can still bitch and moan that like, they're not getting enough scoring. They are getting enough scoring,
They are
and they're
getting
got,
scoring.
like, Kyle Palmieri had up until he got hurt. He's been very good this year. He's actually been more than good. He's been solid. Zach Parise,
Palmieri,
guy, yeah, Zach Parise is drinking from the fountain of youth, and we saw it in the second half last year. He was a monster in the second half last year. JG Pajot looks healthy again, and it's showing. He's a beast in the face-off circle. But you're seeing the points. He might not contribute like people want him to, but he's making the contributions necessary for this team to win. And same
yeah,
goes with the fourth line. The fourth line looks rejuvenated. I mean, we'll see what happens with Clutterbuck, but Martin looks rejuvenated. Cizikas, Casey's got to stop taking penalties. That's a
that's
whole nother
true.
conversation too. But
Yes.
every piece in this lineup contributes to where their record is now. And could they use some more offense? Absolutely. We can go on with the names. Anthony Beauvillier can help. Needs to score more. Josh Bailey could use a couple more points here and there. I'm not going to throw Nelson and Lee in there because I think Andres has had a great start to the season. I think Brock is really, like, Brock is just,
Oh,
he's one of the probably
he's a
this.
man on a mission.
I think he's going to score 40 this year. I know
Yeah.
a lot of people
He's on
were,
pace too.
yeah, a lot of people were saying to me when I said that oh, we had the high shooting percentage last year, it's going to be a fluke. I'm like, no, he was going to score 40 if he wasn't hurt last year. He might have hit 45 if it came down to it. But, and yeah, he's on pace. But there's another, like, all their pieces all play a role. And just to get back to the defense,
Sure.
I don't think they have to be as defensively, not say defensively minded, but they don't have to be ultra focused to win games now. They're not. I mean, do they still as they say, do they Islander it up when they need to? Yes, because that's what they have to do. That's how they win games. But
That's how they win
we've seen
playoff
now,
games.
yeah, we've seen now this year though, not even just playoff games, but we like
Yeah.
but even just the start of the season, the way they've come back and won games, and the way they've kind of, you know, the way they've kept themselves in games and found ways to win. That's important, and that goes to show you that every piece of this lineup has a part in it.
Absolutely. So again, this was brought up, moving ahead now, some people still want that scoring winger. And we're not
Mhm.
going to get deep into rumors here, but Randy and I talk all the time, NHL, whatnot, and I'm just going to bring this into a broader spect. Um, you know, Taze is an option for the Isles. I really like his leadership in the dressing room. He's also one of the best on the draw. I understand where he's coming from on that. He's a sexy name. He's a sexy player in that sense. Would he certainly help on the draw and faceoffs over Barzell? Probably, but let's expand that. Let's say, for example, that the Islanders are in on Meyer from San Jose. Let's have fun. And Patrick Kane of Chicago. My
Mhm.
personal favorite has always been Vladimir Tarasenko of St. Louis. Sexy names who could possibly help out Matt Barzell relieve some of that pressure. What would it cost? Um, Folks, I'm not going to lie. After this show right now, it's if you've heard everything we've talked about so far, it's going to cost you prospects. It's going to cost you a lot. So for me, if you're going to get that sexy player, first off, you better make sure that he resigns because we'll both tell you right now, Lou's not going to bring any pure rental in unless he's going to re-sign you. So let's just get that out of the way.
Mhm.
If I had to throw Tays anywhere, it's Winnipeg. I see Tays going back to Winnipeg. But as far as picks go, as far as, bringing it back to the Islanders, this is going to be costly because after what we were just talking about, the Islanders have a legitimate chance to make a really long push, and it's going to cost. Rob, give me your thoughts.
Well, just to answer Randy's question, I don't see Jonathan Taves as a fit on this team right now. One, because they have enough centers, they have enough
Yep.
center depth. I think the Islanders have in the top five of down the middle in the NHL. I really do. From Barzell down to Cizikas, I think they're one of the best. Leadership, of course, nothing wrong with having leadership. Taves, though, I think he might be past his prime, and that's
Yep.
something against him. He's a phenomenal player. He could be a Hall of Famer. I don't see where him. I don't think he pushes the needle as much as people will think. Or in my opinion, I don't think he pushes the needle. We could go on about Patrick Kane.
Yep.
He would transform this team and make them a Stanley Cup contender in a heartbeat. Um, I don't see it with Taves. With Timo Meyer, I think that's a legitimate option. I think he wouldn't cost as much as a Patrick Kane. I feel like a Patrick Kane, you're looking at giving away at least two of your regular players, and it starts with Anthony Beauvillier. I think he's always just because of the inconsistency, and I don't know. He's definitely always at the top of the list when it comes to trade talks.
Sure.
And then you could throw in Scott Mayfield because he's on an expiring contract. Maybe Chicago want a guy like Chicago could use leadership. They could
Mm-hmm.
so could San Jose. San Jose could use a defenseman. Chicago could use leadership in that department. Not saying they're lacking, but
Right.
Mayfield, he's not even 30 yet. He's not even 30 yet, and he's really come into his own the past couple of years. It will cost. You're right. It will cost prospects. I don't know how high prospects. I think with Kane, it would cost them at least one of their two or three best prospects in the system.
Sure.
With
Yeah.
Meyer, I think with Meyer though, I think they could get him for a reasonable price. And the problem is the difficulty is you look at what the Islanders gave up for Kyle Palmieri. You look at what they gave up for Alexander Romanov. They gave up first round picks. And they don't have an abundance of those like they did when Lou first came around. And if you're not willing to part with your first round pick, even though Lou seems like he doesn't give a rat's ass about them, which is hilarious. I don't know. I think it always comes with most trades for like big time names. It always comes down to those kind of picks. But I do feel with with the circumstances surrounding both Meyer and Kane, I think it's more they're going to look. I would think Chicago and San Jose because San Jose is rebuilding. Chicago is too. I think they would more want guys that they know are going to make an impact right away.
Which is why I still feel two prospects from the two high Isles prospects, maybe a Ratu, maybe a Bolduc, maybe that would be in their repertoire of requests. It's like, look, these kids are ready. We may want them. Now again, this is
Mm-hmm.
all speculation here, folks. We're not saying this is actually happening here, but you know,
I mean,
the
who would you give away? I mean, just to throw the question back.
for Timo
You
Meyer.
mentioned, you mentioned, yeah, you mentioned Ratu and you mentioned Bolduc. I think, and just
Ishkakov,
not to,
I know for a fact Ishkakov has already he's been generating looks from scouts for a while now, but his
Hmm.
concern, a lot of the scouts' concerns has always been his
Size.
size.
Yep.
So
He's a small
they're
guy.
they're looking to yeah, that's why he's getting a long look over in Bridgeport. If I can re-sign, is Timo Meyer under contract or he's a restricted free agent?
I can tell you in a second.
I
What's that
think he's a
Kiermaier
restricted.
contract?
You guys are slacking off
He,
here down here in the comments section. You guys know this already.
yeah, he is. Oh no, he's a UFA after this season.
Okay, if you can re-sign Timo
Interesting.
Meyer,
Interesting. Yeah.
if you can re-sign Timo Meyer, I go Ratu,
Hmm.
Ishkakov, and the 2024 first round pick.
It's not bad. It's not a bad package. I do feel as a like what I said before. I think they'd want a roster player, whether it's a Scott Mayfield who's on an
And that
expiring
would
contract.
Anthony Beauvillier would work too. That's fine. I would still go.
He's
Look,
a very reasonable cap hit.
yeah, yeah, no, maybe Beauvillier, Ratu, and a 2024 first rounder if they
I
wanted to
mean,
go that
I
route.
yeah, I mean, I don't think um there's not a lot of guy like this is the problem with the Islanders though is
Yeah,
we
go ahead.
could
Let's talk about it.
with trade talks is there's only one or two names that you really are going to throw out there right now from a roster standpoint, and we've said them now ad nauseum
Sure.
that have really basically probably the most value. You're not trading Anders Lee. You're not trading
No,
Brock Nelson. I mean, I know Nelson's contract is I think he has 2 years left from what I recall. Thing with Josh Bailey, it's I think, and people might not like this, I think he's deserved the right to stay here and finish his career here. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. And sure, could they
agreed.
trade him? Could they
Agreed.
put him in a trade to like Chicago or San Jose? Sure. But with how respected he is in that locker room and the leadership value he brings that people don't talk about enough. He wears the A for a reason. He wears one of the A's for a reason. That's a guy who's I feel it should be a lifetime Islander until the brakes finally come off, where he just can't play anymore. And a lot of people, because Lambert scratched him a couple games already this year, that he was sending a message. I don't know. I mean, I'm not willing to speculate, but obviously there's a talk like that talk of okay, his career here could be winding down because I think he's only got 1 year left on his deal from the one he signed in 2018 or
Mm-hmm.
2017-18. But I don't think Lou would do that to a guy who is as loyal as Bailey is to this team. And I think, I mean, not to say it like this, I think it would fracture the locker room because he's that well respected and he's one of the heart and soul guys. Even if people don't want to admit it,
Right.
that guy he doesn't miss games. He shows up
Right.
in the playoffs. He does all the little things that you need for a team to be a winner. And would he be great in San Jose or Chicago? I think he would. I
You
do.
would.
But he's got a home here. He's got a family here. He loves it here. He like the I know from a fact that his wife and Sydney aside, like the Matt Martin's wife and
Mm-hmm.
Cal's wife, all like they're a tight knit group, and it
Oh
would
yeah.
it would be tough. It would be very tough. Like I think it would hurt. I think it would. Some people say sometimes it goes beyond the ice. It goes in the locker room. It goes everywhere. I mean, not to get off on a tangent like that, but that's one of the major things that comes with talking a guy like Bailey and like trading him, or even I know he was possibly going to go to Seattle in the expansion draft. I didn't think he
Yeah.
was. I was kind of surprised by that, but that I mean
So is
I
he.
never thought that he was leaving. I really never thought in my mind he was going to leave.
Okay.
But those are the
Listen,
things that come down to it that come with it.
you mentioned the key word there, chemistry. We're seeing it right now that the Rangers don't have it with all the players that they lost. Is it a good idea to bring someone else in with the chemistry that this team currently has? That may not be a question that can be answered right now, but you know,
I also
they
don't think
are
it comes down to
missing.
chemistry.
Go ahead.
I think it comes down to fit. And just looking at the trades that Lou has made, the Romanov one was meant for fit, because you've always been trying to find. I mean, not to say he's not Devon Taves' replacement, but you wanted to find a guy who was going to replace Chara. There's your replacement, unless you had guys who were going to fight for it. But Romanov was that guy. You brought in JG Pajot because he was a fit. You brought in Kyle Palmieri because he was a fit. It was what they needed at the time.
Right.
It's not always about chemistry, because chemistry takes time to develop. We've seen it now. Like, I could say, like, guys like Kyle Palmieri, like that can't, like, his chemistry with this team really didn't develop until the playoffs rolled around 2 years
Correct.
ago. And then you
Correct.
saw, like, the Kyle Palmieri that they were paying for. You can even throw in a guy like Andy Green. The chemistry with him really didn't. It showed when the bubble playoffs started. You could see it right off the bat. So with the Islanders, I think the mentality is it has to be the right fit, and it has to be for, as Lou likes to say, it's not just thinking about today. I'm thinking about tomorrow. Like, thinking
Exactly.
about winning a stand, like hopefully winning or fighting for a Stanley Cup. And I think Meyer's a fit. Obviously Kane is a fit. Taves is not. And if you want to throw in one of those guys from Vancouver, throw in a Bo Horvat or a Brock Besser. But you don't want to shake the apple cut. I mean, you don't want to. I don't know what that expression is. You don't want to shake it like that if you know it's going to hurt the room, and you know
Right.
it's going to end up not working out in your favor.
So this has been a phenomenal show so far, guys. We're going to go quick water cooler talk here. Any other reasonable questions, comments that you want to ask us? Go right ahead. Wallstrom is not on the trade block. Neither is Noah Dobson. We've been telling you that, guys, now for like 5 years since they've been drafted. It's never happening. Neither is Sorokin.
That's pretty hilarious.
Yeah.
That Dobson to Vancouver stuff was really comical this summer.
I know. All right, let's have some fun here. Jordan Eberle back on Long Island? I don't think so. Not with Seattle doing as well as they are.
I totally agree. He's having a phenomenal year. I think last year was an adjustment period for him and for everyone with that team. But you're starting to see it now. That team, they might not look sexy on paper, but they're a hardworking team, and they play structured. It's really great to, like, what Dave Haxtell has done with that team, and what Ron Francis has done with that team, and not like the moves they made over the summer, and just to add to whoever Eberle was playing with or whatever, like, it's turned out really well, and he seems like he likes it there. Like, he's found his spot. He's a leader. He really is. I don't want to think that when he was here that he didn't have that same kind of role, but I think he's a good guy for the young guys. I mean, you saw the way Barzell the way he appealed to Barzell.
Yep.
And in that sense, so I think I don't think Jordan Eberle is an option. I would be floored if Seattle would trade, but I think with the way Seattle's playing, it's a total non-starter.
No. All right. So real quick, favorite Islander growing up?
Favorite Islander growing up? It was Rick DiPietro.
Attaboy. Yes.
Yeah, it was.
Yes. I was right up there. Yep.
Yeah, I had his jersey, and a lot of people like to say that he was one of the worst things that happened to this franchise. Before all the crap and stuff with him went down, he was actually a very, very good goalie in this league. Like, not top 5, but he was in the top 10. And just the injuries, man, it just, sometimes that's the way things go. But I'm not. It was tough to, like, looking back now. It's tough to say, like, see the way it went down, and just have the memories of how bad things got with him. But he was always he was really one of my favorites. Of course, I mean, I played a lot of goalie, like mini six, played goalie growing up, so he was always my guy.
Yep.
But like now, I mean, I can't believe you said, like, growing up, because now that just made me feel old.
Nah, come on. Believe me, bro, I've got you by a while. Don't worry about it. I got you by a while. No, I keep telling people, back, in 2008, 2009 season, if Rick DiPietro's healthy, that Islander team's at least a 500 team. We don't have John Tavares on this team. That's how good DP was.
Yeah. I
You
think
know,
it was when was it? He got hurt in the All-Star game in '07,
yeah,
if I can recall.
yeah,
And
and he
the
never
team was
recovered.
the team was never the same after that. They
Yeah,
fell on their face. I mean, I think if he was healthy enough for that, I mean, I know he played most of that series against Buffalo,
yeah,
but it seemed like that first concussion in Montreal, like completely changed his entire career. And
yeah,
he was never the same after that because then
yeah.
the hip went out and then everything else. So it was tough to look back on it, but he was, excuse me, he was
Yeah.
actually one of their better goaltenders for a long time before Nabokov came around, and now
Yep.
when Halak showed up, and now with Sorokin and Varlamov, and even you could throw Thomas Greiss in that
Sure,
conversation.
you could.
So yeah, I mean,
Um,
I don't know why you didn't ask me to that 2000s and 2010s because they're totally different eras.
yeah, they are. No, they are
Yeah.
definitely totally different eras. Favorite Islander player or favorite NHL player to watch right now?
Well, I mean, I could go with the easy answer, Connor McDavid, but my favorite player to watch. Mm, that's a tough one. I mean, it changed. I feel like it changes daily. Like watching Jason Robertson right now, he's a monster.
Good answer.
He is so good, and just like even like watching the game when they were playing the Islanders last week. Oh yeah, my car. No, watching him against the Islanders when they played him in Dallas, and that shot that made it 4-2. I was like, I knew that was coming, and of course it was him. He seems to always find the back of the net, but what he's doing right now, I think he's on par with the McKinnons and the McDavids, and he's just a fun player to watch. Because he's dangerous from anywhere on the ice, and
Yeah,
it's for watching him. It's not even like with McDavid. It's his speed and his tenacity and just his willingness to just make everyone look stupid. With Robertson, the shot he has,
yeah.
the playmaking ability he has, it's through the roof right now. So I'd like Robertson is right now at the top for me.
Beautiful. That's a great answer. So no, we're okay. You'll have to forgive Randy. He's a Leafs fan. I don't know why I do this with him, but yeah, he loves watching Marner. At least it wasn't the other guy.
Oh boy.
So yeah, no, he'll yell at me later. But no, Rob, I wanted to thank you for coming on. This was a lot of fun. I'd love to have you on again whenever Gary and Joe are feeling better. Um, thanks again for coming on. And where can they follow you on
Uh,
social
this
media?
so you can follow me at rtaub underscore on Twitter, and I mean if you want to follow me on Instagram, I don't really do much on there. It's Rob underscore Taub 25. No, yeah, Rob underscore Taub 25 on Instagram. No, this was a blast, man. I had a like this was really fun. I don't do a lot of Islander podcast anymore like I used to. Like I was doing a lot of it like during the Barry Trotz years, but
Yeah.
like this was fun to like the full scope. You know, this is stuff I talk about with my friends and my brother and my family like all
That's
the
the show
time.
I want. Yes, this is just
Yeah,
two friends come together.
yeah.
This is what we want, and we love torturing the fans who love coming in here in the comment section. I do it all the time. So listen, I have one more question for you. It's kind of a personal one.
Okay.
My mom is coming back up from Florida for Christmas,
Hmm.
and I have to go to Long Island anyway. I need a recommendation for a great Jewish deli on Long Island because that's what we grew up with, man. And let
Oh
me tell you
man.
something, if I don't come through, because I haven't spent my Christmas with my mother now in like 7 years. I'm like, she's had it up to here now because I never went to Florida. I need a good Jewish deli. This is a complete kissing up
Oh
moment.
boy.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm putting you on the spot,
Um.
bro.
Well, the only one that I've known growing up is Lido Deli in Long Beach. I've never been the biggest like kosher deli person. I
Okay,
mean, yeah, I mean, I went up to Montreal this past summer and it completely
I'm going
blew
there.
away.
Yes.
Um,
I'm
it's a
going
fun.
up there in February with the Booster Club.
Oh, are you? I might go up for that game. I'm
Yes.
seriously thinking about it because it's a
We're
afternoon game
there.
and
We're going
yeah,
there. Yes.
and I mean, I
Yes.
went for the draft this past summer, and I want to see a game there very badly. And the fact that the Islanders are playing there in on the like an afternoon game too on a Saturday, it's like
Yes.
be perfect. Fly up on Friday, come back on Sunday or Monday. But when I went up there, you got to go to Schwartz's and you got to go to Dunn's.
Yes.
Oh my god! And they blew. my expectation. I mean, people told me about it. They blew my expectations out of the water. Yes, Angie, I did have the bagels when I were up there. Very different from the ones here in New York. A lot
Yes.
smaller, but
Yes, but they're
the
good.
crunch in it, it
Oh,
was phenomenal. All the food I had up there. Um,
Jewish
but
deli though.
Jewish deli, I feel like you have to go in the city if you're gonna get one. But
Okay.
if you're gonna stick with Long Island, because if you're gonna stick with Long Island, go to Lido Deli in Long Beach.
Okay.
Ah, and I mean, Ben's. It's just a staple.
Ben's.
Gotta go to
Yeah.
Ben. Gotta go to Ben's. There's only a few. There's only a few of them left. I know there's one in Syosset. There's one in Woodbury.
Okay.
Because I used to work over there, and there's one that's in the shop. It's in a shopping center in Carl Place. It's on
Okay.
Hipster Turnpike. No, it's on Old Country Road. But
Old
if
Country
you
Road. Yeah, I
want it,
got you.
yeah. But it's down to Lido Deli, and I haven't had Lido in a long time. My buddy took me there with like his grandparents took us there a long time ago. But Ben's like you can't beat Ben's. It's just like it's a staple. Not even
Yep.
if you're not Jewish, it's but like kosher
Oh
wise.
no, it's delicious. No, no, no. My family's not Jewish, but we had so many Jewish friends on Long Island, and that I grew up with that. So my mom was like, "You need to bring me something from a Jewish deli on Long Island," and my dad's like, "Bring the
Yeah.
bagels."
Oh my
So
God.
I
No
gotta
kidding.
do both, bro. Yeah.
I mean, just look at Lido Kosher. There's Ben's Kosher Delicatessen and that Carl Place.
Yep.
There's one in Hewlett, Woodrow Kosher Restaurant. There's Regal Kosher and Caterers. That's in Plainview. I mean, I don't know where on Long Island you're gonna be.
Bro, I'm from
Uh,
Mineola. I know where
oh,
everything
all
is.
right.
Oh yeah. No,
Okay.
I'm originally from Mineola. Yeah, no, I know exactly where it
Sweet.
is. So
Okay.
listen, if I swing down in December, we're there. Let's do it.
Awesome. I mean, whenever you come down for a game, I haven't gone to. I've been to only a couple of games this year because of work. But
Yep.
whenever you come down, like if you're coming down or coming up for a game, well, you're in Pennsylvania, so you're coming up for a game.
Coming down. Yeah.
But when you're coming up, like let me know. First beer is on me. Beer's on me.
Done. Done deal, bro. So thank you everyone for coming for Isles Talk tonight. We'll be back next week. Hopefully Gary will be feeling better and Joe we just don't care about. So everyone have a great night and let's go Islanders and we'll see you next week.
See you guys.